Israel just launched a series of missile attacks on Iran that has reportedly claimed over 20 civilian lives.
Israel has carried out a major and highly anticipated series of airstrikes against Iran in retaliation for Iran's attack on Israel at the start of the month.
These missile strikes were followed by strict warnings to Iran not to retaliate. However, Iran is not one to back down from a fight, especially when it's against Israel. Will Iran's government choose peace? Or is this the start of another war in the Middle East? On the 25th of October 2024, Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Defense Minister Yoav Gallant reportedly authorized a 3-round strike attack on Iran during a call with Israel's cabinet ministers. The main objective of this attack was to destabilize Iran's missile manufacturing facilities and aerial defense systems. To successfully carry out this operation, Israel set a target on 20 Iranian military sites. So the following day, on the 26th, at around 2:15 a.m., Israel launched the first wave of missiles that struck west of Tehran, the capital city of Iran.
First wave was probably to knock out the air defense systems, the Iranian defense systems.
Less than 3 hours later, this attack was followed by a second wave of missiles that struck Tehran and the province of Elam and Khuzestan. However, this time, the attack was recorded by Tehran residents, and the videos were posted to social media, showing tracer fire and explosions illuminating the capital's sky. But to the horror of the residents of Tehran, this was not the final attack, because less than an hour later, the third wave of missiles struck the city.
And then came the third wave, improving the hits if there were any misses or additional secondary targets.
Finally, at around 6 a.m. local time, the terror would end, when an Israeli military spokesperson announced that the country had concluded its operation to destroy Iran military facilities that posed a threat to Israel. This was followed by a direct warning to Iran's government of the dire consequences if they considered retaliating.
We conducted targeted and precise strikes on military targets in Iran, thwarting immediate threats to the state of Israel. The Israel Defense Forces has fulfilled its mission. If the regime in Iran were to make the mistake of beginning a new round of escalation, we will be obligated to respond.
On the other hand, the White House denied any knowledge of the attack and urged Iran to cease its attack on Israel to avoid further escalation.
The White House said that it was not involved with the Israeli attack and responded to news of the strikes by urging Iran to not further escalate, saying the United States was not a participant in this operation. It is our aim to accelerate diplomacy and de-escalate tensions in the Middle East region.
Although Israel claimed that the operation was precisely targeted at military facilities, a video released to social media, civilians were also heavily affected, and at least 22 people were killed in the missile strike.
A whole building destroyed as Israel pursues its stated aim of stopping Hamas regroup. At least 22 people were killed here, including Ishmael Mugat's wife and 3 small children. They are under the rubble.
Later that day, Iran confirmed the attacks. However, in a surprising twist, Iran's media seemed to downplay the issue. The government news agency announced that the strikes only caused limited damages in some areas. But shortly after, the government announced that 4 soldiers were killed in the attack. The news agency also reported that the strikes targeting military centers in the provinces of Tehran, Khuzestan, and Elam had been successfully intercepted. In response to the US and Israel telling them not to attack, Iran called the strikes a clear violation of international law and said the country considers itself entitled and obligated to defend itself.
Iran has said it has a, quote, duty to defend itself, with Iranian news sources reporting that 4 soldiers were killed. No further details being given.
Right now, it's unclear whether Iran will strike back or not, but before exploring the possibility of revenge, it's important to understand why Israel attacked Iran. On the 1st of October 2024, Israel vowed to respond after Iran rained 200 ballistic missiles on Tel Aviv and Israel military bases.
The sound of sirens pierced the night sky as a wave of Iranian weapons were intercepted over Israel. The Israeli military says it was targeted by more than 200 drones, cruise, and ballistic missiles.
Iran has made a huge mistake tonight, And it will pay for it, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu famously said hours after the attack. The missiles came about 24 hours after Israel launched a military attack in Lebanon to destroy Hezbollah, a powerful militant group backed by Iran, and days after Israel killed its leader Hassan Nasrallah in a strike on Beirut.
To breaking news this morning, Hezbollah has just confirmed its leader and founding member Hassan Nasrallah was killed in an Israeli airstrike on Beirut.
For decades, Israel and Iran had been fighting proxy wars. However, the first conflict was first brought into light in April 2024, when Iran launched a missile and drone attack on Israel in response to a suspected Israeli strike on the Iranian embassy in Damascus, Syria. 3 weeks later, Israel has finally decided to fulfill its promise to make Iran pay for the attack in October. But it's not just Iran Israel's missiles have struck. In recent weeks, Israel has been targeting various militant organizations, like the Houthis in Yemen and the militants in Syria, all which are proxy to Iran.
These groups, which also call themselves the Axis of Resistance, are in Syria, Iraq, and as far away as the Houthis in Yemen. They've all been weakened, but not wiped out by Israel's recent strikes.
But so far, Lebanon has been the most successful, as Israel was able to track and assassinate the leader of Hezbollah in his underground headquarters in Beirut in September. An attack Prime Minister Netanyahu said was a necessary step toward changing the balance of power in the region for years to come. But this victory has come at a very heavy price, because as of October 24, 2024, it was reported by Lebanon's leader that Israel's war against Hezbollah had claimed the lives of more than 2,500 people and displaced 1.2 million, creating a rising humanitarian crisis. Unfortunately, the situation in the Middle East has only gotten worse. Ever since the Palestinian militant group Hamas attacked Israel on October 7, 2023, Gaza has become a battlefield. The war, which is barely over a year, has reportedly claimed the lives of more than 41,000 people. In the words of the UN Human Rights Chief, one of the darkest moments of the war is unfolding in the north of Gaza, where the Israeli military is subjecting an entire population to bombing, siege, and starvation.
Today, one of the darkest moments of the Gaza conflict is unfolding in the north of the Strip. As we speak, the Israeli military is subjecting an entire population to bombing, siege, and starvation.
But Iran is not Gaza, so Israel will have to get ready for whatever consequences they face from the attack on Iran.
There will definitely be a retaliation because the Israeli regime initiated this aggression. They bombed the embassy. The Iranians struck back to bring about deterrence. Then they assassinated Ismail Haniyeh in Tehran. So the Iranians have struck back to bring about deterrence and to end this.
There are many theories on how Iran might respond. Some supporters believe that Iran will retaliate by sending missiles targeting Israel, while others believe Iran will likely avoid this conflict, out of fear of how the United States will respond if they wage a full-out war on Israel. While both theories are within reach, if the situation ever gets this bad, the United States government will be in a very difficult situation. The US will likely be faced with the choice either showing their support to Israel and losing access to the oil and natural resources in the Middle East, or remain neutral and potentially lose Israel as an ally.
That would be the defeat for the global economy, because if the United States was foolish enough to get involved, the resistance in Iraq will kick the Americans out of the country, and all American bases in the region will be gone. And those regimes in the Persian Gulf that host American bases, those oil-rich dictatorships and gas-rich dictatorships, they will be seen as hostile. So you can say goodbye to oil and gas from our part of the world and goodbye to your economy.
Iran is not only rich in oil, the country holds high influence and power in the Middle East because the government funds many of the terrorist and militant groups that occupy the land. For many years, the United States has been able to maintain a stable economy due to the oil and other natural resources they have been extracting from the Middle East. So if the US gets involved with Israel's war against Iran, they could potentially lose a huge deal of the resources they need to keep a steady economy. This is why the US has chosen to remain neutral. The United States has been so cautious about the effects of the conflict that it recently urged Prime Minister Netanyahu exercise restraint and avoid Iran's nuclear and oil assets. But it's not just the US. Many other countries like Qatar, Bahrain, and the United Arab Emirates have also expressed the same concerns on how an Israeli attack on Iran will create an economic and environmental impact for the region. But Israel is not the only country they should be worried about, because Iran is incredibly unpredictable, as seen in recent weeks when the government joined hands with someone even more disliked by the West. And if you want a deep dive into Iran's deal with its new ally, check out my video, Putin Gives Fighters Jet License to Iran.